the classic, the big one, the infamous fight. What else is there to say, ladies and gentlemen, but, well, the introduction just about says it all. Yes, the two most horrid and wretched sights in the whole of the first game, because it also makes for the single best boss fight, no question, in the first game. Whenever people usually do bring up the Dark Souls experience, it is usually capped off by your encounter with Ornstein and Smough. And everything about the fight, the presentation, and the soundtrack, which we will get to in a moment, screams that you're approaching a great climax. That even theoretically only halfway into the game, you've travelled to what feels like a late game area in Anor Londo. You break your way through the cathedral. You make your way into the palace. You traverse through bedrooms, through corridors. You slay Silver Knights. You slay Tight Knight demons. And you overcome giant monolith guardians who possess like shields as big as a house and are designed with whatever else to make sure that you do not reach what lies beyond Ornstein and Smough. And when it comes to when it comes to the actual fight itself, is that, yes, you will be very, very surprised at how difficult this fight can truly be. Because, literally, I consider myself very competent, but my first experience with Ornstein and Smough, it took me about 4 hours to finally get past Ornstein and Smough. And let me tell you something right now, that is like the Dark Souls experience, as I said again, is by overcoming Ornstein and Smough, because there isn't really any other boss with a difficulty curve quite as steep as this. Manus's combo, however, might be a bit more in terms of like in more terms of frustrating, but if you haven't not got to that point of the DLC and you're not ready for it, then I don't really know how I'm supposed to help you out with that. Bed of Chaos is, well, it's not really a fight at all, to be honest. And the rest of the game kind of doesn't really reflect the curve for difficulty, because, yes, Ornstein and Smough is a huge difficulty curve for any new players, because if you have not got into Ornstein and Smough with at least a plus 11 weapon, or even here's the thing, I've mentioned this before, the fight can only really be as difficult as you choose to make it. You can optionally flood out the whole of the New Londo ruins, grab the very large ember. You could theoretically go into this fight with a plus 15 weapon, and you could basically like tank a hit or two and take out either Ornstein and Smough in like 2 or 3 hits. It can be as simple as that. But nowhere is the feeling of dread and terror of facing two incredibly diverse and very, very therapeutic and arithmetical sort of villains than Ornstein and Smough. Because Ornstein is swift, agile, and has a fair selection of close range attacks, as well as being able to shoot lightning from a distance. Smough, on the other hand, is slow, bumbling, but he hits incredibly hard, and he's very, very difficult to engage at any real... Basically, Ornstein and Smough are very difficult for any real position in like the arena you fight them in. And the music is literally the ultimate challenge, if you ask me. And why is that? Well, let me demonstrate. I apologize to all Dark Souls veterans if you're about to witness PTSD, because this is what PTSD sounds like to me. there really is like almost nowhere to run and nowhere to hide in this fight. And again, these are two of, well, Smough definitely isn't, but this is the first time you actually fight one of Gwyn's knights directly in the form of Ornstein. And he doesn't exactly, his stature doesn't exactly fail to disappoint now, does it? The only real safe thing about this entire fight are the 4 pillars that, well, it's is it 4 pillars or is it like 6? That you can sort of slightly hide behind, but it's more just to like block certain attacks from Smough more than anything. Ornstein will more than happily kite around any pillar and literally get you with his spear anytime he likes. And what makes it slightly even more nerve-wracking is the fact that not only can Ornstein, again, track you down and basically kill you in a few hits, but it's one of those occasions where you're almost half panicking about every single thing you do. And because these are 2 entirely different NPCs with very diverse movesets, it means that they do act slightly independently in terms of like, well, in terms of how they attack, but their chief goal is to hunt you down no matter what. This isn't quite like the same as when you fight the gargoyles earlier in the game, because the gargoyles, for the most part, had pretty much identical movesets, and the second gargoyle mostly only breathed fire. So it's very easy to kite around the gargoyles with not that much difficulty. Compared to Ornstein and Smough, however, is there really any safe place to hide? Also because their much higher health bars make it where you feel almost helpless in terms of, am I really doing enough? Am I doing enough damage? Am I not taking advantage? And this is where, again, From Software's design of greed costs you really comes into its own. You've got to be safe. It's not a race. You're not doing a speed run of this. You just need to do it one step at a time, and you will be rewarded. Slow and steady does win the race when you fight Ornstein and Smough. And I'd say almost at any point, this is pretty much the point where it gets even tougher, because as it's probably been mentioned and noted in the annals of history before, is that this is the first boss fight in Dark Souls that actually has a second stage. Once you deplete either Ornstein or Smough's health bars to 0, there will be a cutscene in which the other will gain the powers of its fallen comrade. If Smough is killed first, Ornstein grows bigger and he gains the ground slam ability that Smough has, which makes Ornstein harder than before because it doesn't really seem to lose any of his speed, ironically. So you feel overwhelmed and completely overmassed by his strength and stature. Smough, however, if Ornstein dies first, Smough literally crushes him to death, and his moves become electrified, including his giant hammer. I know it's in general, it's probably better to kill Smough first because Smough has the larger health bar, but it does mean that in the second stage, once you kill Ornstein, you gain access to Ornstein's Leo ring, which is really, really good because it'll do so much more damage. So if you are willing to take the harder route, you will be rewarded outside of what happens after the fight, but we will get to that shortly. course, From Software, even during its early days, continued the philosophy of their more high-ranking bosses have a lot more of a grandiose nature to their soundtrack, because you're fighting something theoretically of much higher nobility and value. And I can't really do this entire fight any more justice, because it's one of those fights that, again, anybody who's had any interest whatsoever in Dark Souls or From Software games definitely needs to try stuff like this out. I know that people do have like very mixed opinions about the Godskin duo fight, because apparently it's nowhere near as good as Ornstein and Smough because of its position and just the way that, again, Dark Souls lets you become powerful, but it's not through. It doesn't do it through like cheating. There's no real cheese to it without like hours of grinding. And well, there you are. I don't really feel like there's anything else I can really say about the excitement, the danger, the perils of this fight. And there's a reason why it's still listed as one of the best that they've ever done. Certainly the best boss fight in the first game, in my opinion. And it's only really let down like some other boss fights do due to its collision detection issues, as well as its slightly off-putting lock-on system. Do you think it's better to like do the lock-on and all this? I mean, to be fair, the hitboxes for both Ornstein and Smough are quite big, so I don't really know how you can miss them, but there you are. Even sometimes I can surprise myself, but there we go. And with all that being said and done, there is still a reward for you that comes after this, but we will get to that very, very shortly. So I hope all of you guys enjoyed Ornstein and Smough, and I cannot wait to see all of you guys again in the next video. Take care, and bye-bye for now.